Greetings, Joseph Kursky here, and as a geographer, people sometimes stump me with really tough geography questions. I thought you might like to ponder some of these, and also ones I've thought of myself. Let's limit it to 5 questions for this video. Remember, these are the tough questions. There are plenty of intermediate and easy questions out there in books and on websites of various kinds. Feel free to ponder those too, and or give them to your students. But you readers of my essays, books, and videos, I think you need the tough ones. Okay, here we go. Number 1, think of interstate highway locations. Think of state capital cities. Think of the lower 48 USA states. Which capital city in the lower 48 states is the farthest from an interstate highway? Ooh, that's a tough one. Number 2, think of 2-number interstate highways, I-25, I-71, and others. Where in the USA do 2 interstate highways cross each other that are the digital transposings of each other? In other words, where if you switch the number of one highway, you would get the number of the other highway. And the 2 highways actually cross physically on the landscape. Now, zeros do not count. In other words, there's an I-40 and there's also an I-4, Interstate 4, or 04. So rule those out. Do not count the zeros. All right, number 3, consider landlocked countries. What is the second largest landlocked country? Because the largest one is pretty easy, but the second largest one is a bit tricky to think about. Number 4, name one of 2 doubly landlocked countries. Continuing with our landlocked theme. A country is doubly landlocked or double landlocked when it is surrounded only by landlocked countries, requiring the crossing of at least 2 national borders to reach a coastline. Ooh, these are tough questions, aren't they? You probably want the answers. I hope you're thinking about it though. Number 1, Carson City, Nevada, good thought, but no, that's not it. Pierce, South Dakota, that was my guess actually on this one. I didn't actually get the correct answer. My guess was Pierce, South Dakota, but it's 39 miles from I-90, so it's in second place. Dover, Delaware is 41 miles from I-95, so it is the answer. Dover, Delaware. That's a tricky one. That's a tough one. Okay, second question. In second place is I-87 and I-78. They come close to each other in New York City. Not quite though. They don't actually cross, but they're both in the New York City metropolitan area as their endpoints. 78 and 87. Good guess, that's not the answer. The actual correct answer is I-69 and I-96. They cross at Lansing, Michigan. So, right, there's a transposition. 69 becomes 96. Yep, so it's I-69 and I-96 in Lansing, Michigan. Number 3, the easy one that I could have given you is the largest landlocked country. And had you think about that, you would have said, well, it's Kazakhstan. Yes, it is. But the second largest one is actually pretty tricky because it comes close to a coastline, but it doesn't actually have a coastline. And that is Ethiopia. Ethiopia is the second largest landlocked country. Fascinating. Okay, continuing with the landlocked theme. Liechtenstein in Central Europe is surrounded by Austria and Switzerland. Ooh! Uzbekistan in Central Asia is surrounded by Afghanistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and Turkmenistan. Now, I told you in the beginning of this video that I've got 5 questions for you, and I've given you 4 answers. But you're saying, well, Joseph, what about that 5th one? Well, I was saving that for last. The 5th one is as follows. Think about state capitals, okay, of USA states, and think about the geographic center for each one of those states. And now think about where the state capital is. What state capital is the farthest from its geographic center? The farthest from its geographic center. For example, I'm here in Colorado. Denver's our state capital. It's not that far from our center of our actual state. The center of our state is actually in Park County, which is southwest of Denver, maybe about 90 miles southwest. So Denver's fairly close to the center of the state, but it's not actually Denver. So the 5th question is, what state capital is the farthest from the state's geographic center? Okay, It's a good question. I haven't done full research yet. I think it's important to analyze several different sources when you're creating these things, but also, as you can watch in my other videos, I'm always about be critical of the data. Don't just take one source. Don't just take a map as truth. Investigate the sources, investigate the metadata, etc. Same thing here, even though this is a fun kind of a quiz. But it's actually Juneau, Alaska. Juneau, Alaska is the farthest from the state of Alaska's geographic center. Makes sense, right? Because Juneau is way down in the panhandle of Alaska. It's a long ways. It's hundreds of miles from the center of Alaska. Interesting. And there was some pressure to move the capital to Willow and some places in the interior north of Anchorage for a number of years. And those have not, as of this video, come to pass because Juneau is a bit inaccessible. There's no roads leading to it. You've got to take a boat or fly an airplane to get there. But it's Juneau, Alaska. The second one, the second state capital that's the second farthest from its state center is actually really close to Colorado. And you might be able to guess what it is. It's Cheyenne, Wyoming. Wyoming has a fairly even sort of a border, although we can talk about the intricacies of the Wyoming border as well. But the center of Wyoming is actually due west of Casper. The state capital of Wyoming is actually in Cheyenne, which if you go look on the map, you probably know this already, but if you look on the map to verify, it is in the southeast corner of the state. It's actually not too far from Nebraska. It's actually not too far from Colorado. So Cheyenne, Wyoming is the state capital that's second farthest from the geographic center of the state. The third place is even trickier because there's three that are very close to being all tied for third. One is Lincoln, Nebraska. Lincoln is in the southeast corner of Nebraska. It's quite a ways from the center of Nebraska. Carson City, Nevada, which is way over by Lake Tahoe in the western corner of the state, is actually pretty far from the center of Nevada. And then Tallahassee, Florida. That's a hard one because you'd think, oh yeah, Florida. The center of the geographic center of Florida is actually right around Orlando. But Tallahassee is way up in the panhandle. It's a long ways from being near the center. So those are some tricky ones. Now, if you want more, and I sense that you might need more because you're the geographic, inquisitive, spatial thinking community, I've got a 400 question GIS crossword puzzle. 400 questions. That'll keep you occupied for several hours. So keep thinking spatially and geographically. Feel free to submit your own brain teasers, tough geographic quizzes in the responses to this video. Thanks.